Like you have an appreciation of the indigenous cultures and you recognize all the things that the places you are working at. And I think a lot of times it's not a common practice because often people say, well, Hawaii is part of America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's this disregard that there was an entire country and indigenous peoples there before that, you know?
Hmm.
So we wanted to resurface those images and those ideas that, hey, you're forgetting that there's an entire indigenous population.
Hmm.
And then let's look at why some of those things can be a little triggering, like having those trauma-informed practices, but we have to also make people aware of the trauma. So
Hmm.
a lot of the audience members, they had no idea.
Hmm.
They had no idea that Hawaii was its own country recognized in the
Wow.
League of Nations with, yeah, it was suppressed information. And so even for people who perhaps even born and raised here, they didn't know either that the literacy rate was I mean, so high in Hawaiian
Hmm.
language, and we had, so many opportunities. And so I think that it was just bringing that back up to the surface, and then saying that this is a unique place, but
Hmm.
also to recognize that wherever you work, I think wherever you work and wherever you're from, you got to know the places and the people that you're working with for truly culturally responsive care. Hawaii was our just case study, right? But try to make it applicable for whoever was chiming in to say, look at the places where you're working,
Hmm.
where you're from, and your own biases. Yeah.
And Hawaii is often, Naomi, in the last podcast, referred to it as this melting pot. And so it absolutely is true, where our point is wherever you go, right? Take that humble stance, learn about the people, the culture, and do your very best to apply that humility throughout, the stages of that practice.
Hmm.
But where Hawaii is unique is that indigenous history. And also then we have the immigration movement with the sugar plantation, right? So we've got this whole mix within our population. And so there's like layers upon layers and layers and layers to consider,
Hmm.
because, I'm Japanese, English, Irish, and Scottish, right? Naomi is a whole bunch of things too, right? Which is right. And that you're going to commonly encounter when you interact
Hmm.
with individuals that were born and raised here. And those things, such as Pidgin English, or those like certain traditions, our food traditions, those kinds of things, have
Hmm.
morphed and evolved into this beautiful mix of all those cultures too. And that's also Hawaii culture, right?
Hmm.
It's not just the native Hawaiian, but we need to really keep that in mind. We think it's so important to always keep that in mind. And for me, even though I'm not native Hawaiian, and I think many of us growing up here feel that deep sense of wanting to protect our peers that are native Hawaiian, recognizing just the injustices that have been done. And so we have that those shared experiences of wanting to support, preserve all of those things, like, but also that connection with like our food, our shave ice, our, like all those different sort of practices that we do just love and that are so uniquely connected to Hawaii.
Hmm.
I